He opened his skill display, and the system showed his default skill slots. 1. Ashton Vision, Sword Skill. Bear Crush, Grade A+ at Intermediate Level 2. 2. Psychokinesis, Grade S at Intermediate Level 2. 3. Ashton Mind Skill, Grade A at Intermediate Level 1. 4. Copycat, Grade S at Beginner Level 6. 5. Basic Meditation, Grade E at Beginner Level 8. His skill deck selection slots were Flash and Shield, both Grade C at Beginner Level 6. Random Slot, Iron Fist, Grade D at Intermediate Level 1. He was grateful for his skill decks, because they allowed him to use 3 more skills, and the selection slots let him freely use 2 registered skills. He was about to use one of them when he suddenly heard something from the side. He turned to look, confused. Jerry fearfully asked him who he was and how he had used the Randall sword skill. Raoul simply responded that he was still there because he had forgotten about him. He then ordered Philip to kill them every time they revived for an hour, to which Philip respectfully agreed. Philip then asked his men if they had heard their young master's orders, and they immediately agreed. Jerry begged Philip for forgiveness, but Philip just stared at him. Raoul thought to himself that it was blood for blood. The enemy screamed in pain while Raoul reflected on the reality that had been presented to him. He knew that he had to do everything to not lose again, even if that meant stepping through a pool of blood. He was determined not to lose. Meanwhile, Ronaldo, who had been watching from a distance, wondered what was going on. According to the plan, when the Randall Knights attacked Raoul, he was supposed to get his share after mobilizing the guards to help. However, Raoul had defeated 15 knights on his own. Suddenly, Raoul looked in his direction, making Ronaldo panic and bend down. He wondered how Raoul had found out he was there. Ronaldo began to question if Raoul was just a rich, good-looking pushover. He contemplated the possibility that Raoul had hidden a swordmaster of the county with him, and if that were the case, Raoul must have figured out all his plans. He calmed himself down, realizing he would have to be friendly with Ashton County in the future. A few minutes later, Ronaldo was in his room, reflecting on how he had overdone it, but also considering the rewards that were pretty good. As he looked at the system displaying the results of his sudden quest, Rival Family Challenge, he saw that his rescue and punishment were complete, and he received rewards: 30,000 experience points, 5,000 coins, and a random B-grade skill book draw ticket. Additionally, he obtained 5,000 gold, a space-expanding magic bag capable of holding a carriage's worth of luggage, and a unique grade rapier and main gauche set from the Randall County Scoundrels. Grabbing the ticket, he remarked that the B-grade skill book draw ticket was especially nice. He wondered if all the flunks he received from the tournament skill book rewards were some sort of cosmic joke. Even thinking about it now felt ridiculous. Placing the ticket on the table, he said he didn't need something amazing but hoped for at least a mid-tier one this time. Breaking the ticket in half, he prayed it wouldn't be another flunk. As the ticket released a bright light, he was surprised and delighted to see he had acquired a skill book called Rivera Spearmanship, Grade B, making him shout in happiness. He knew spearmanship would be a necessary skill for his next destination, the capital, and thought his luck was finally turning. Then he reminded himself that there was still one important task he needed to accomplish in Mirian, and he planned to invest 1 month to ensure its success. A week later, he was in the forest, launching his sword and attacking the ogre in front of him. Wiping his sweat, he checked the system, which showed that he had leveled up to level 51. Additionally, he had achieved the level necessary for promotion. The system confirmed his job as a sword user and a beginner, psychokinetic and his proficiency in related skills, including Ashton family hereditary swordsmanship, Randall swordsmanship, and psychokinetic abilities, had all increased to mid-level 2. With the promotion requirements satisfied, his job as an ice sword user was upgraded to by sword expert, and his ATM beginner psychokinetic status advanced to thoughts in intermediate. Psychokinetic and Philip praised him, calling it amazing, while Jake said it was incredible that he had become a sword expert at just 15 years old. Raoul raised his hand into the air, causing the stones on the ground to float upward. Swinging his hand forward, he shouted, "Go!" The stones shot toward a massive tree, striking it and causing it to explode into pieces. Next, he pulled out his sword, leaped forward, and activated Bear Strike, slamming the ground with tremendous force and causing it to shatter into fragments. Raoul looks at the cracked, destroyed ground, and asks his men if it was supposed to be like this. Philip smiles and tells him it was wonderful, exactly what he expected from their young master. Jake playfully chimes in, asking if Raoul can now handle things without them. Jake then suggests they take a breather and relax, but Philip tightly grabs Jake's ear and asks him what he means by relax. Philip reminds him that he should focus on how much he needs to catch up with Raoul instead of joking around. Jake shouts that it was just a joke and laughs, saying that since their young master has worked so hard, he thought they could take it easy. Philip, unimpressed, insists Jake is all talk, making Jake laugh awkwardly. Raoul tells Jake that regardless of whether it was a joke or not, he doesn't plan on taking a break yet. Philip asks Raoul what he would like to do next, and Jake suggests contacting the family, saying that Count Melvin would be thrilled to hear about Raoul's progress. Raoul replies that he will inform the family himself later, and suggests keeping it a secret. Between them, for now, both Philip and Jake agree. Raoul knows that he has hunted enough monsters and leveled up sufficiently. Meanwhile, Philip scolds Jake again, telling him to watch his words. Jake pouts and asks what Philip means by that. Raoul realizes he has set all the bait and now just needs to wait for the prey to take it. He tells his men they should head back now, and they both agree. As they walk away, Raoul internally urges the dogs of the Empire to hurry up and make their move. Meanwhile, in the bustling streets of Mira, a lady named Naya, an alchemist, stretches her body, announcing the end of her workday. She notices that potions have been in high demand recently, and wonders if it's all thanks to the Ashton County, people who brought her the necessary materials. Naya knows that producing potions requires monster byproducts, which were hard to obtain because monsters rarely appeared in the cursed forest. However, thanks to the Ashton County's people bringing these byproducts, she has been able to produce potions every day. She also notes how the Ashton County's guards stop by the village shop every morning to check if anything unusual happened during the night, ask if she needs anything, and ensure her well-being. Stepping out of her store, Naya thinks Raoul is a bit strange but admits she is grateful to him, and also notes that Raoul is quite good-looking. Naya slaps her face in shyness, scolding herself for her thoughts and telling herself to get it together. Raoul is just 15 years old, 8 years younger than her, and a noble on top of that. The thought makes her feel embarrassed, especially since the people around her often give her strange looks. A moment later, she arrives at her house, happily opening the door and calling out to someone named Nikki, announcing that her sister is back. However, no one answers, causing her to grow worried. She looks around, calling for Nikki again, but then her eyes land on something that fills her with fear. On the bed, she sees a letter pierced by a knife. She quickly grabs the letter and reads it. The message states that they have taken her little sister, and if she wants to save her, she must not tell anyone and wait for further instructions. Tears well up in her eyes as she cries out, "No!" The shock and fear overwhelm her, and she immediately runs out while crying, knowing Nikki's life is at stake. Naya knows that Nikki is in grave danger if the kidnappers have taken her outside the city. She recalls hearing reports of kidnappings, which the city government claimed they were investigating. However, she never believed the rumors to be true, until now. Panic-stricken, she wonders where she can turn for help. She can't go to the city government since there's a chance the kidnappers are watching her. She knows the guards wouldn't bother venturing outside the city even if she told them. Asking the mercenaries at the Adventurers Guild would take too long to yield any results. As she racks her brain for options, she suddenly remembers Raoul telling her that if she ever found herself in trouble, she should come to him. Clinging to this glimmer of hope, she resolves to find Raoul. Without wasting another second, she runs toward him with all her might, determined to save her sister. Meanwhile, in his apartment, the system notifies Raoul that Naya is heading his way. He sighs, realizing the situation has escalated. Calmly, he orders his men to get into their positions, stay on their targets, and report any changes immediately. His men reply with a swift and disciplined, "Yes." Raoul then opens his access to the Connect community, navigating to a premium member-only information cafe. He clicks on the link to the cafe, knowing its value well. In his past life as a star player, he had operated this very cafe, using it to gather useful intel from fans and informants. Over time, it had grown into an information treasury, holding nearly every hidden piece of intelligence in Connect. As he glances through the details, a satisfied smirk forms on his face. He knows he's hit the jackpot. When Raoul saw that the cafe still existed, he felt relieved. He knew he could rely on it instead of his uncertain memories to plan more effectively. He searched for the link to the Free City Mira, and the system showed him that the search result was a quest starting point at South Mira, NPC. Confident that he had already checked every possible quest he could take, he now hoped everything would go as planned. One of his men reported that Naya had arrived, making Raul wonder if he could truly change Naya's future. Shyly, he ordered his men to treat her politely. He knew who Naya truly was, the crazy alchemist, blood-hungry witch and taboo destroyer. She was a subject of fear for everyone because of her reputation. In her quest for revenge against the Empire, she hadn't hesitated to conduct experiments on humans, and her chemical weapons had often targeted the Empire. Tragically, many innocent civilians had been caught in the crossfire. But the Naya standing before him now was just a desperate girl, pleading for help. He placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder and told her to calm down, promising that Nikki would be fine. He assured her that he would help her, so she should explain everything that had happened. Through her tears, Naya told him that her sister had been kidnapped. Nikki should have been home 2 hours ago, as the lady next door was supposed to be taking care of her. Naya blamed herself, saying it was all her fault, and begged Raul to save her sister. He told her not to worry and swore that he would find Nikki, leaving Naya shocked but hopeful. She continued begging him to save Nikki, and Raul assured her that he already had an idea of where Nikki might be. He told her to stay there and promised to let her know as soon as he found her. To further ease her worries, Raul told Bernard to assist Naya. Bernard, ever graceful, told her to inform him if she needed anything, and emphasized that she had made an excellent choice because their young master always kept his promises. As Raul and his men began heading out, Philip reported that Pierce was tracking the situation and had obtained permission to operate from Mayor Ronaldo. Raul responded with a calm acknowledgement, saying, "That's nice." The system then updated him about the raid quest, Free City Mira, with objectives ranging from grades D to B. The primary objective was to defeat unknown rogues, while the additional objectives included rescuing hostages and raiding the hideouts in the forest. The quest description detailed that an unknown group of rogues was active in the forests around Mira City, and Mayor Ronaldo had requested a raid to address the rogues' actions, which included kidnappings and interference with trade. The rewards for completing the quest included a large amount of experience points, coins, recognition from the mayor, and unknown items. He asked Philip if he had given Ronaldo the list of rogues, and Philip replied that Ronaldo had mentioned he would reward them for it later. Expressing surprise at the information provided, Philip confirmed that he had given Ronaldo the list of rogues hidden in the city, using details from his informants and data from the cafe link. Knowing he had already expended many resources, he ensured there were no flaws in their plan. He then instructed his men to proceed, and Jake excitedly agreed, unaware that 2 people were hiding in the bushes, spying on them. One of the men communicated something to his comrade. Meanwhile, in the forest, someone walked by, catching the attention of Pierce, the Ashton County Golden Bear Knights, Raul's Guard Knights, and the other Bear Knights. Pierce believed he had found something based on traces on the ground, and it was time to initiate their operation. Leaping high, he landed on a tree branch, planning to use the new skill he had learned. Activating his detection skill, he began searching the forest. To his shock, he spotted men hiding nearby, armed with bows and arrows. He also observed phantom magic circles and barriers. Recalling Raul's earlier warnings, and knowing he had to report it immediately, he read Raul's message indicating they would arrive in 5 minutes, which prompted him to think back 5 months. He remembered that Raul was the youngest son, known for his perceived weakness and lack of talent compared to his brothers. Many servants and knights were initially reluctant to accompany Raul, and when Raul sought volunteers, few seemed interested for a long time. However, Raul had visited the knights' training ground and personally spoken to them. During a conversation with Pierce, Raul had mentioned that he could help Pierce surpass his limits. Pierce had expressed his desire to grow stronger, but he doubted how a boy like Raul could teach him anything. Nonetheless, he decided to give it a try. When he swung his sword under Raul's guidance, he was surprised to find every move felt smoother. He remembered Raul's advice about learning Bear Crush and emphasizing that his strength lay in agility, not power. Raul had suggested he polish his bow skills, as he had heard that Pierce was a talented bowman. Few people knew about Pierce's skill with the bow, yet Raul had noticed it. This made Pierce wonder if Raoul was the one who could genuinely help him. Choosing to follow Raoul, he was sure it was the best decision he had ever made and believed that those who had declined Raoul's offer were likely regretting it now. He still didn't understand why Raoul had been hiding his power. But with the skill books Raoul had provided, Pierce had reached the high expert stage and was able to practice his other skills. It would have been impossible without Raoul's guidance. He speculated that today might be the glorious day, when Raoul would reveal his true strength. However, noticing someone approaching, he immediately jumped off the tree branch and gracefully bowed, along with the other knights, respectfully calling out that he had arrived. Looking ahead, the system indicated it was an unknown rogue hideout with an unknown grade and size. Its status revealed a 3-circle or higher, magic circle interfering with vision, and another 3-circle magic that disrupted anyone who approached. He had to decide whether to destroy the magic circle or find a way to enter and gather more information. He noted that hideouts looked the same even in different cities and that spies from the Cran Empire were hiding in Maya, while most connected players received quests from starting cities like Mira, offering rewards for killing monsters or rogues. There were unusual rogues among them. These included a slave trader who kidnapped people in the city and mercenaries aiming to make it big. However, the most dangerous of all were the Cran Empire's spies, known as the Imperial Hounds. They hunted players and blackmailed them to prevent them from gathering together, making them critical in the late game. He couldn't let them remain. Calling Pierce, he instructed him to act. Pierce immediately aimed his arrows and released them, striking the men hiding behind the magic circle. They entered the barrier and noticed that no one was near the entrance. He considered dispelling the magic circle with a scroll he had bought from the shop but hesitated when he saw the mana flow. He wondered if he could do it. Deciding against using the scroll, he put it back in his jacket and infused mana into his weapon. Grabbing his dagger from his inventory, he launched it toward the mana flow. The circle slowly cracked under his attack, and then he stabbed the magic circle on the ground with his dagger, destroying it. He thought it was a nice outcome since he could save money by not relying on scrolls. Pierce expected no less from their young master and called for the men, Jackson and Neil, to follow the plan and lure the enemies as they had discussed. He assured them that he would signal when it was time to enter, and they both agreed. Pierce descended from the tree branch and walked with them. Feeling confident because he had elite knights with him, he told himself that they should hunt all the rogues down. A moment later, they arrived at a huge door. He informed everyone that they didn't need captives, so they would hunt them all, emphasizing that they shouldn't forget to use the rapier for the final blow. Jake voiced confusion, asking why they should use a stick, but ultimately agreed to follow the orders. Even though it didn't seem like a task requiring such weapons, Jake deferred to his leader's judgment. Pierce was tasked with finding the kidnapped people, prioritizing Nakia's younger sister, Nikki. He acknowledged the instruction and assured them he would handle it. Then he called Philip, who nodded in agreement, using his psychokinesis to open the huge door in front of them. They proceeded inside. While Pierce looked back briefly, the group continued walking through the tunnel until they reached the hideout. Pierce exchanged a glance with their leader, who understood and watched as Pierce silently faded into the shadows. The system confirmed that Pierce had successfully infiltrated the opponent's base. This prompted their leader to think that it was time to begin the hunt. Looking up, he noticed the high cave ceiling and wooden fences scattered around. He checked the rogues' levels, which ranged from 30 to 31, not much different from regular thieves. Satisfied with the reconnaissance, he prepared to issue orders. He raised his hand to signal Jake and Philip, giving them their instructions. Jake was to go left, Philip straight, and he would take the right. Clenching his fist, he silently gave the command, and they all ran toward their designated directions. He speedily ran upstairs and then jumped, making the men at the top wonder who it was. Before they could react, he appeared above them in a flash and threw his knives at their heads. Landing on the stair handle, he immediately grabbed his bow and arrow, aimed at a man, and released it, killing him. In the center, Philip was busy slaying the men, while on the left side, Jake was doing the same. However, someone at the top spotted them and shouted about the intruders. The man ordered the guards to protect the fences and kill them. He attacked the guards with arrows, but their numbers increased, and they began blocking his shots. One of the rogues called his companion to aim at him and shoot. Surprised to see arrows flying toward him, he used his psychokinesis to stop them mid-air, leaving one of the rogues panicked, asking if he had bounced the arrows off. His companion ran to get back up from downstairs, The rogues rushed toward the stairs to attack, and one of them shouted that arrows didn't work on him, urging the others to jump on him instead. He put the bow on his back, realizing he'd need a different approach. Grabbing the dagger strapped to his chest, he readied himself. One rogue charged at him, but he simply pushed the man away, sending him flying into his comrades, surprising everyone. Using his psychokinesis, he lifted the arrows scattered on the ground, raising them to his side. Then, holding the daggers, he levitated with arrows swirling around him. One rogue, in disbelief, shouted that it was magic and impossible. He positioned the arrows around him, aiming at the rogues below, and released them simultaneously, hitting many. Watching them struggle, he reached into his inventory, realizing he needed more force to pierce through their armor. He jumped off the stair handle, appearing above a man trying to flee, and stabbed him with his rapier. Wondering where the others were, he glanced back to see Philip and Jake still killing the rogues. The rogues, in fear, shouted for their companions to run, calling them monsters. The man beneath him begged for help. When he saw Jake holding the rapier, Jake angrily slashed the man with it, shocking him. He sighed, realizing Jake was rebelling to show his unwillingness to use the rapier. Jake didn't need to make such movements that wasted mana. Ashton had told Jake several times not to do that, to avoid leaving traces of swordsmanship, but he decided not to worry too much about it.